Welcome to another one of our lecture series, I guess, on topics of strength training. Might give these videos a name or a series at some stage, not just yet. Today's topic is understanding the deload, why almost everyone gets it wrong. This could almost be the topic of one of my opinions are like assholes, because I could have a good rant about it. Because it is one of the topics within strength training and strength and conditioning that the vast majority of people seem to not grasp and not get right. So rather than maybe going off on a rant with some stupid video in the background, I maybe thought I'd take you through just a quick walkthrough why that's the case. We're going to look at a couple of studies. Not going to go into a tremendous amount of detail, but hopefully by the end of this 8 minute or whatever it ends up being talk, you should get a good appreciation of what a deload is, what the best way to deload is practically, and understand why the most strategies you'll see in programs like 531 couldn't be any further away from being the correct strategy. Okay, so first of all, we're going to understand this. The deload is a mini taper. So within sport, before a big competition or before an important competition especially, most athletes will undergo what's called a taper. And a taper in training's a period when we reduce volume of training, sometimes frequency, to allow the training stress that's been accumulated over the past few training cycles, could be months, weeks, months or years, allow the athlete to recover from that stress, to recuperate, to undergo the processes of supercompensation, look at fitness fatigue or gas models, which was talked about in other topics. I'm not going into too much detail about it, but it basically allows the body to recover and for the person to realize the training they've put in over the past time frame, and then it allows them to get a little boost in performance and compete and perform at their optimal level, or the best level they can achieve given their training status, their athletic capability, etc., etc. The key objective of the taper is to allow for an optimal level of recovery while avoiding detraining, as put in one of the papers that I looked at from the Journal Strength and Conditioning Research 2008, which was a brief review of tapers or taper research. So the deload, as it is referred to in most training, originates from a drop in training volume after concentrated loading training. This is a very important concept we're going to cover just now. This is an idea that was introduced and championed by a guy called Mike Stone, who's an American strength coach, exercise physiologist, and a prolific researcher. Mike's got a number of papers, a great number of papers. I think he's got over 200, and has a number of books. He's an excellent researcher, an excellent resource if you're ever interested in the science of strength training or the research of strength training. Probably one of the leading authorities out there. Definitely will look at his work anyway. So this is a concentrated load. So you see on the left we have the intensity of training over a 4-week cycle, and this is percent RM. So week 1 we're training 85% RM. Week 2 we've reduced our training intensity to about 75% or 75 point something percent. Week 3 we went back up to 82%, and week 4, which is in green, we're back to the 85% intensity. What we've done here is, you'll see from our volume load, we've done a massive training week here, and afterwards it drops away a lot, and then we kind of creep back up again. What you're looking at here is 5 sets of 5 at 85% in the green week, or sorry, the blue week, which is week 1. And then you'll see we have our deload, where we drop our intensity, we drop our volume. So we went to 3 sets of 5, and we've dropped down that percentage. And then we're going 3 5s, 3 5s, but we're bumping the intensity up again. And you can see we went that huge drop in volume. Basically, the concentrated load, as is referred to in some of Mike Stone's periodization work, is a period of overtraining or overreaching where you drastically increase the volume much greater than it was, and it takes he reckons, or he worked with his work with American weightlifters, or the American weightlifting team. He found out that like it took about a 3 week to bounce back from that. So after your 5 sets of 5, where you're really struggling with a workout, very intense workouts, after like a 2 week reduction in intensity and volume, as you bump the intensity up, you should bounce back by about week 3 and be able to set new personal bests and lifts. So you might even go up to 90% RM for 3 sets of 5 with what was previously your 5 or 9% RM. Yeah, I'm starting to stutter a little bit. So this is basically where the deload comes from. It comes after that concentrated load, and you deload week 1 and then kind of reload week 2 and week 3. And this is where it's kind of been popularized, or where the term deload kind of comes from. But effectively, as we discussed, a deload is a taper. So how do we best taper? This is taken from meta-analysis from the American College of Sports Medicine from 2008, published by Bosk et al. On the left here, you'll see from the meta-analysis the duration of the taper. So you can see from week 1, small effect size. Week 2, there's a big spike, and then week 3 and week 4, it kind of drops off a little bit. So if you're tapering for competition, realistically, you want to give yourself 2 weeks to do so for powerlifting competitions, weightlifting competitions, athletics competitions. You should be looking at a 2 week time frame for dropping your training volume. And then we look at here the reduction in training volume, 20% or less, no effect. 21% to 40%, got a moderate effect. 41 to 60%, we have a large effect size, and then after 61% or more, we get quite a big drop off. So we're looking at that 41 to 60% reduction to be the optimal level of reduction in training volume. So that can mean if you're doing 9 sets in a workout, you reduce that down to 3 to 6 sets. This is kind of where we're going at with this talk now. From that review paper, the first indisputable trend is the need to maintain training intensity, whatever the mode of locomotion. The worst thing you can do when you're tapering or deloading is to drop the intensity of training. That's going to lead to detraining, which we do not want. So we look at some of these studies and what they're saying about tapering. According to our results, a tapering intervention of a 2 week duration where volume is decreased by 41 to 60% without any modification to either training intensity or frequency is the strategy that will maximize the probability to obtain significant improvements in performance, and that's from that meta-analysis we just looked at. So we're looking to maintain frequency. So if you train 3 times a week, you keep training 3 times a week, where you are maintaining intensity. So if you finish the training cycle at 85% or 90% of RM, you're going to keep to that, or even bump it up a little bit. But we're looking to maintain intensity. This is the key factor. And obviously the reduction in volume is where we're going to get that taper effect from. So if you do 60 working sets in a week on your heaviest week, then we're going to reduce that by 1/3 to 2/3, from a half to 2/3 realistically. So if you do 50 working sets, you're going to drop down to 25 to 30 working sets to make the most out of that deload, or make the most of that taper. Mujica and Padilla suggest the taper is best accomplished by reducing the training volume whilst maintaining the intensity, often referred to as the quality of training. They suggest that performance can improve between 0.05% and 6%. That paper, the Mujica and Padilla paper, was a 2003 review on tapers. And the quote is taken from Bishop et al. 2008, which is another review of tapering and training, which is published in the journal Strength and Conditioning Research. And then finally, from a study on tapering strategies within strength athletes, this data indicates that resistance training athletes can improve concentric strength for at least 8 days by greatly reducing training volume but maintaining training intensity. That's from Gabala et al. 1994, which was published in the International Journal of Sports Medicine. An old paper, but on a specific population, which is always a nice thing to have. So here we have a meta-analysis, a review, and actually just a specific study on strength training, all saying the same thing. Reduction in training volume is the important factor. Maintenance in training intensity is paramount to hold on to that adaptation. One of the quotes from that 2008 Journal of Strength and Condition Research, they hypothesized that the holding on to the intensity was the best way to hold on to your training adaptations. So if you want to hold on to the strength that you've gained over the last 4 or 5 weeks of training or overload, then you need to keep up the intensity of training to keep those adaptations. So brass tacks, what matters? Deloading is a short taper. If an actual taper is 2 weeks, a deload can be anything from 3 days to 7 days. It's a small taper. We're not looking for to peak. We're just looking to have a little break, rest, recuperate, and get ready for another period of training. Reductions in volume are required. They are essential. Reduction in intensity is detraining. Do not reduce training intensity. To taper correctly, we need to drastically reduce volume, 40 to 60%, half to 2/3, whilst maintaining frequency and intensity. So if you do 3 sessions a week, you still do 3 sessions a week. If you train at 80% RM, you still train at 80% RM. So what's that look like finally? A bad deload example. So our heavy week of a 3-week training cycle, we do 3 sessions of 3 exercises, and we do 5 sets of 5 at 80% of our 1 rep max. Our deload week on week 4, we do 2 sessions, reduce the frequency, we do 3 exercises, we do 5 sets of 5, the same volume, but we reduce our intensity by 30%. So we will get a reduction in training volume, or training volume load, but we'll also get a marked decrease in intensity. This is what we're looking at here is basically a waste of a week. You're going to spend the next week detraining. You don't want to do this. It is a waste of time and energy. Don't drop training intensity. A good deload example. Heavy week, same thing. 3 sessions, 3 exercises, 5 sets of 5 at 80% RM. The deload week, 3 sessions, same frequency, 3 exercises, 1 set of 5 at 80 to 85% RM. So what we have here, we have a drastic reduce in the volume and the volume load in training. Possibly too much. We have reduced it by 75%. So maybe 2 sets to 3 sets of 5 at that 80% RM could have possibly been a better example. But what we have here, although maybe not perfect, is a good deloading strategy. We get the rest by so if we do 3 sessions of 5 sets of 5, we've done 75 reps at that intensity for this week of training. This week we're going to do 15 reps, but the intensity is the same. So if we're working with 150 kilos in whatever exercise it was last week, we're still working with that same load, 150 kilos, or possibly 160 kilos, 165 kilos, and we're just blasting out 1 set of 5. Over, done, it's easy. You're still shifting the relevant weight, you're holding on to all those adaptations, but you're still getting a rest because you're drastically reducing the amount of work done within the week. Okay, so that concludes this talk. Hope you've got something out of it and you understand where I'm coming from. Any questions, comments, please send them to speedpowerperformance@gmail.com. Here's my reference slide. I know for all my university lecturers out there who might be watching this, I know it's on Harvard referencing, but if you go through these URLs, you'll get the studies I was talking about. This is Mark of castironstrength.com signing off. And for the love of God, maintain training intensity. Goodbye. Intensity. Goodbye. Intensity.